For 3 years, I've been nothing but a glorified houseboy, treated worse than the family dog. Brenda, my mother-in-law, always looked at me with cold disdain. Scarlett, my wife, simply ignored me. And her rich admirer, Brandon, never missed an opportunity to humiliate me. That was my life. But what they didn't know was the truth. I was a titan, a king brought low, my power locked away. My memories were sealed, and for 3 years, a dragon swam in shallow waters. Now, as that divorce agreement slammed onto the coffee table, a shackle shattered. The dragon was awake, and the entire world would soon tremble at my roar. Those who had disrespected me, shamed me, and bullied me would all kneel at my feet, consumed by regret. Sign it. Take this $10,000 and get out of the Hayes family forever. Brenda Hayes, my mother-in-law, pressed a finger painted with bright red nail polish firmly onto the divorce agreement on the coffee table. Her fingertip was white from the pressure. Her voice was shrill and cutting, like a dull blade dragging across my eardrums. Ethan, you worthless bum. You've mooched off the Hayes family for 3 years. This 10 grand is a generous gift. Don't push your luck. I sat on the couch, saying nothing, just watching her. Watching her face, twisted with excitement, and beside her my wife, at least in name, Scarlett Hayes, her face as cold as ancient ice, a beauty that seemed untouched by time. And then there was the man beside Scarlett, Brandon Miller. He was the only son of Miller Corp., a trust fund kid oozing arrogance and the stench of old money. Right now, he was looking down at me with the smug air of a victor, his contempt and amusement unconcealed. 3 years ago, I was in a car accident. I lost all my memories. Grandpa Hayes found me and brought me home, and somehow, I ended up marrying Scarlett. For 3 years, I was a ghost in this house, doing laundry, cooking, mopping floors. My status in this family was lower than that yappy little terrier, Fifi. Brenda either hit me or cursed me every day. Scarlett treated me like I didn't exist. We'd been married 3 years, slept in separate rooms for 3 years, and the total number of words she'd spoken to me probably wouldn't crack 100. Every time, they were icy commands. Mop the floor. Wash the clothes. Don't bother me. And Brandon Miller? He showed up every other day, openly showering Scarlett with gifts right in front of me. Flowers, designer bags, sports cars. Each time, he'd find new ways to humiliate me, as if stepping on me gave him some kind of twisted pleasure. Ethan, what are you staring at? Playing dead. Brenda saw my lack of reaction and slammed her hand on the table. Spit nearly flew into my face. Mister, Miller brought us amazing news today. As soon as Scarlett divorces your worthless self, Miller Corp. will inject $50 million in a Hayes Corp. Do you even understand what $50 million means? It's more money than you could ever earn in a lifetime. Brandon calmly adjusted the lapels of his Armani suit, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. Ethan, a man needs to know his place. You don't deserve Scarlett. For 3 years, you've occupied the position of son-in-law, and that was my greatest mercy. Now, take the money and get lost. Don't taint Scarlett's sight any longer. Scarlett finally moved. Her slender fingers picked up the agreement and gently pushed it toward me. Her voice was as cool and detached as always, betraying no emotion. Sign it. It's better for both of us. My heart lurched, not from pain, but from a towering rage that had been suppressed for 3 years. In that instant, as the final piece of shattered memory slotted into place in my mind, it exploded. My name was Ethan Grant, a global financial titan, the feared wraith, a mercenary king, and the sole heir to the ancient Grant martial arts family. 3 years ago, I was hunted by my family's enemies. I detonated a microbomb, intending to take them with me, but my soul somehow crossed over into this body, a body that also belonged to an Ethan. My memories were sealed then, and now, at the very moment they threw that divorce agreement in my face, the seal shattered. Everything that belonged to Ethan Wraith Grant came rushing back. I looked at the ugly faces before me and suddenly laughed. Laughed loudly. Ha ha, ha 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 ha. My laughter stunned the 3 people in the living room. Brenda frowned. You worthless bum. Have you gone crazy? Brandon's face darkened. What's so funny? I stopped laughing and slowly stood up. 3 years of passive acceptance had left me, with a habitual slouch. But now my back straightened inch by inch, like a legendary sword, sealed away for 3 years, slowly unsheathing, its sharpness undeniable. My gaze was no longer the meek and numb look of before. I swept my eyes over Brenda, and her heart skipped a beat, as if she'd been targeted by some primordial beast. Then I looked at Brandon, and the triumphant smile on his face froze. Finally, my gaze settled on Scarlett's face, the face I'd looked at for 3 years, yet always felt separated from by a wall of ice. As you wish. I picked up the pen from the table and, without hesitation, signed my name, Ethan Grant, with a flourish at the end of the agreement. The 2 words were sharp, piercing through the paper, imbued with an arrogant power that seemed to dominate the world. From this day forward, I cut all ties with the Hayes family. I tossed the pen onto the table with a sharp clack. Brenda was so stunned by my presence that she couldn't speak. Brandon, however, recovered. He felt his authority challenged. Wouldn't nobody get such nerve? He stepped forward, pointing a finger at my nose. What are you putting on an act for? You're just garbage. Kick to the curb. Ethan, I'm telling you from today on, you're a stray dog. I'll kick your ass every time I see you. I didn't look at him. I turned and walked away. At the door, I paused but didn't turn back, leaving only a cold remark. Some people you think you missed out on, but you actually dodged a bullet. With that, I opened the door and walked out without a backward glance. Behind me, I heard Brandon's furious curses and Brenda's shrill screams. He's lost his mind. That worthless bum actually thinks he's hot stuff. Scarlett, did you see that? That trash should have been gone ages ago. Scarlett said nothing. She was drawn, as if by an invisible force, to the table, picking up the divorce agreement. When her eyes fell upon the name Ethan Grant, her beautiful eyes, usually as still as an ancient well, showed a ripple for the first time. The handwriting, it was so dominant. Nothing like what the meek, subservient Ethan she knew could have produced. She suddenly felt that something was different about Ethan today. But the thought was fleeting. She shook her head, her composure returning. He was just a worthless bum. What difference could it make? Leaving the Hayes residence, I stood at the entrance to the upscale community, taking a deep breath of the cool night air. Freedom, a freedom I'd never known. The cage of 3 years had finally shattered. As for that $10,000, I didn't even glance at it as I left. For Ethan Wraith Grant, that wasn't money. It was an insult. I pulled out the old flip phone from my pocket, the one I'd used for 3 years, and dialed a number I knew by heart. It rang once, then was picked up. A voice, utterly respectful, yet tinged with a tremor of wild excitement, came through the earpiece. Boss, is that really you? It's me, Ace. My voice was calm, but carried an unquestionable authority. I'm back. The other end of the line went completely silent. A few seconds later, a man's barely suppressed, emotional sob broke through. Boss, you're finally back. 3 years. We've been looking for you for 3 whole years. Where are you? I'll be right there. Midland City, outside the Blue Bay residences. Understood. I'll be there in 10 minutes, boss. I hung up and casually tossed the old flip phone into a nearby trash can. Time for a new toy. I looked up at the city's glittering lights, a cold smirk playing on my lips. The Hayes, Brandon Miller. The game had only just begun. The night wind was cool, rustling my thin clothes. This outfit, a cheap knockoff Brenda had thrown at me, probably cost less than $100 and still smelled of cheap laundry detergent. I looked down at myself, a self-deprecating smile. The mighty Wraith, reduced to this. But that was about to change. I didn't wait long. A deep, powerful engine roar approached rapidly. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom, like a ghost in the night, executed a perfect drift and stopped smoothly in front of me. The door opened, and a burly man in a black suit, with a prominent scar on his face, quickly exited the driver's seat. The moment he saw me, his fierce face was instantly overcome with fervent emotion. He dropped to one knee, bowing his head deep. Your servant, Ace, welcomes the return of my king. His voice wasn't loud, but it resonated with the metallic clang of steel and a loyalty that stemmed from his very soul. I patted his shoulder. Get up. Yes, boss. Ace stood, his eyes red-rimmed, looking at me with intense excitement. Boss, you've suffered these past 3 years. He was my right-hand man, trained by me, in charge of the Wraith Corporation's global intelligence and assassination networks. A mere stamp of his foot could shake the underworld of any nation. Just a minor setback, I said lightly. Let's find a place to change and get something to eat first. Understood. Boss, please get in. Ace respectfully held the car door open for me. I settled into the soft leather seat, and the car smoothly pulled away. Boss, where to? I thought for a moment, a place surfacing in my mind. To Leo's Grill. Ace paused, clearly surprised by my suggestion of such a place, but immediately responded, Understood. The Rolls-Royce glided through the night, soon arriving at a bustling night market street. Leo's Grill was the only place the previous Ethan could find a shred of warmth. The owner, a 50-something veteran everyone called Uncle Leo, had been kindest to the original Ethan, who'd been orphaned young. As I stepped out of the car, a rich aroma of cumin and charcoal hit me. Uncle Leo, 2 orders of grilled steak skewers, 2 of the chicken, and a cold beer. I called out, a sense of familiarity in my voice. Uncle Leo, busy at the grill, looked up. Seeing me, his tanned face broke into a simple, honest smile. Ethan, you're late tonight. Oh, and you brought a friend? His gaze landed on Ace and the flashy Rolls-Royce, a hint of surprise in his eyes. Yeah, an old friend. I smiled and pulled out a plastic stool, sitting down. Ace stood behind me like an iron tower, exuding an aura that kept people away, completely out of place in the noisy grill stall. You sit too, I told Ace. I wouldn't dare, boss. Seat. My tone left no room for argument. Yes, boss. Ace carefully sat on the stool beside me, but his back remained ramrod straight. Soon, the grilled skewers and beer arrived. I picked up a steak skewer, took a bite. Crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, bursting with savory flavor. This was the taste. I picked up the beer bottle, poured a glass for myself, and another for Ace. Drink. Thank you, boss. Ace held the glass with both hands and downed it in one gulp. I'd only had half my beer when the conversation at a nearby table caught my attention. Heard about that deadbeat son-in-law of the Hayes family? He got kicked out today. It was long overdue. Just thinking about Scarlett Hayes, the city's most beautiful woman, married to such a loser, it just broke my heart. Tell me about it. But now it's all good. Brandon Miller finally has a chance. A perfect match, destined to be. My hand, holding the glass, paused. Ace's eyes instantly turned cold, a terrifying surge of killing intent emanating from him. The surrounding air seemed to drop several degrees. The young men at the next table suddenly felt a chill down their spines, and their voices quieted. I raised my hand, gently pressing down. Ace's killing intent vanished instantly. Just a few flies, don't mind them, I said calmly. Just then, an arrogant voice rang out at the entrance of the grill stall. Owner, clear the place for me. I bought the whole place out tonight. I looked up, a slight raise of my eyebrow. Speak of the devil. It was Brandon Miller. Behind him were 4 burly men in black vests, their arms covered in tattoos of dragons and tigers. Clearly not good news. The other customers at the stall saw the scene and dared not voice their anger. Some of the more timid ones were already getting ready to pay and leave. Uncle Leo wiped his hands and approached, a conciliatory smile on his face. Mr. Miller, you're here. My little shop has small profits, It's not really convenient to clear everyone out, is it? Brandon's eyes widened. He kicked over a nearby table, sending plates and cups crashing to the floor. Old man, who the hell are you talking to? I'm telling you to clear out as a favor. You want me to make sure this dump disappears from Midland City by tomorrow? Uncle Leo's face instantly flushed red. He was a veteran, with his own pride, and such humiliation made his fists clench. Brandon's gaze swept over the stall and quickly landed on me. He paused, then a deeply twisted and cruel smile spread across his face. Well, if it isn't our very own Ethan, the big worthless bum who just got kicked out. He swaggered over to me, planting a foot on the stool next to mine, looking down at me. What's wrong? Kicked out of the Hayes mansion. Can't afford a 5-star restaurant anymore. So you have to come to this garbage dump to eat slop? TSK, 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 how pathetic. The burly men behind him burst into laughter. The other customers around us looked at me with pity. I ignored him, slowly finishing the last sip of beer in my glass, then picked up a chicken skewer, chewing it deliberately. My disregard completely enraged Brandon. Worthless bum. I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? He reached out, intending to grab my collar. Ace's eyes flashed with cold light, about to rise. I stopped him with a glance. Dealing with this kind of trash didn't require him to intervene. The moment Brandon's hand was about to touch me, I moved. Lightning fast. I remained seated, but my right hand shot out like a flash, anticipating his move, seizing his wrist. Crunch. A crisp sound of bone breaking echoed, exceptionally jarring in the noisy night market. Brandon's arrogant smile instantly froze, replaced by an expression of extreme pain and terror. AR. A blood-curdling scream pierced the night sky. Brandon's shriek plunged the entire grill stall into instant silence. Everyone stared, dumbfounded. No one had expected the rumored meek and worthless son-in-law to dare lay a hand on the Miller family's golden boy, and with such brutal force. My hand! My hand! Brandon was drenched in sweat from the pain, his face completely drained of color. He tried to pry my fingers open with his other hand, but found my grip like an iron clamp, unmoving. Let me go. You worthless bum. If you dare touch me, I'll kill you, he roared, his voice distorted by the agony. I curled my lips into a cold smile. Annoying. I flicked my wrist slightly. Crunch. Another bone-breaking sound. Brandon's entire forearm bent at a gruesome angle. Ah! Brandon's screams turned into pig-like squeals. He could no longer stand, collapsing to his knees before me, tears and snot streaming down his face. His 4 burly men finally reacted. Damn it, you dare touch Mr. Miller. You're dead. Kill him. The 4 men roared, charging at me from 4 directions, their fists whistling through the air with vicious intent. Ace was about to rise, but I shot him another glance. He reluctantly sat back down, but his eyes were locked onto the 4 men. If I showed the slightest sign of danger, he would kill all 4 of them in less than a second. But did I need him? Dealing with a few street thugs was easier for me than crushing a few ants. I didn't even bother to stand up. The moment the first thug's fist was about to smash into my face, I suddenly kicked him in the stomach. Crack! The man's 200-pound body flew backward like a rag doll, knocking over 2 tables, landing on the ground convulsing, foaming at the mouth, unable to get up. At the same time, attacks came from my left and right. I leaned back slightly, doing a perfect bridge, dodging 2 powerful hooks. Then I braced my hands on the ground, my legs scissoring out. Thwack! Thwack! The knees of the 2 thugs on my left and right simultaneously emitted a dull thud. They screamed, collapsing to the ground, clutching their legs and writhing. Only one remained. He was stunned by the rapid-fire scene, standing frozen with his fist raised, unable to advance or retreat. I slowly sat upright, my gaze falling on him. He shivered with fear, let out a yelp, and turned to run. I casually picked up an empty beer bottle from the table, flicking my wrist. Whoosh! The bottle traced a precise arc in the air, striking the back of the man's head squarely. Thud! The thug didn't even grunt. His eyes rolled back, and he fell face first to the ground out cold. The entire process took less than 5 seconds. 4 skilled thugs all laid out, and I remained calmly seated on the plastic stool, as if I had merely swatted a few flies. The entire grill stall was silent enough to hear a pin drop. Everyone's mouths were agape, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Was this really that worthless Ethan? This was clearly some kind of martial arts master from a movie. Uncle Leo was also dumbfounded, the skewers in his hand falling to the ground. Brandon, kneeling before me, was scared out of his wits. He looked at his writhing henchman on the floor, then at my calm, unruffled face, and a chill shot from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He finally realized what kind of being he had provoked. You, who exactly are you? His voice trembled like a leaf. I released his wrist, picked up a tissue, and slowly wiped my hand as if I'd touched something filthy. Who I am is none of her damn business. I stood up, looking down at him, my eyes as cold as ice. Get out. One word, like an Arctic blast, granted Brandon a reprieve. He scrambled to his feet, ignoring his groaning subordinates, ignoring his already broken arm, and stumbled, pissing himself, toward his sports car. You worthless bum. You'll pay for this. My dad is Arthur Miller. You're dead. He didn't forget to hurl threats as he ran. I watched his pathetic retreat, a flicker of disdain in my eyes. Arthur Miller, the CEO of Miller Corp? In my eyes, he was just a slightly bigger pest. Boss, should I take care of him? Ace's voice whispered in my ear, tinged with cold, killing intent. No need. I shook my head. Let him go back and report. I'm curious to see how much power the Miller family in Midland City really wields. What I wanted wasn't to kill him alone. I wanted to see him and his Miller family, at their most proud, most arrogant moment, fall for the clouds and shatter into a million pieces. I would show everyone in Midland City what happens when you cross Ethan Grant. Just then, Uncle Leo finally snapped out of it. He quickly walked to my side, his face filled with worry. Ethan, you caused big trouble. That's the Miller family's son. You need to leave, as far away as possible. I looked at his concerned eyes, a trace of warmth flowing through me. In this world, apart from my brothers in arms, Uncle Leo was the only person who genuinely cared about me. I patted his shoulder, smiling. Uncle Leo, don't worry, it's fine. Just a few mad dogs. I don't even have them on my radar. I pulled a bank card from my pocket and placed it on the table. This card, Ace had given me in the car earlier. I didn't ask how much was in it, but it was surely an astronomical sum. Uncle Leo, there's some money in here. The pin is 6 zeros. You don't need to run this stall anymore. You're getting old. It's time to enjoy life. Also, all the customers' tabs tonight are on me. With that, I didn't linger. Under the awestruck gazes of everyone, I took Ace, got into the Rolls-Royce Phantom, and sped off into the distance. In the car, Ace drove while respectfully reporting. Boss, during your 3 years of disappearance, Wraith Corporation operations never faltered. The tech companies you established earlier have now become industry giants. Among them, Titan Tech broke through a major technical barrier last month, monopolizing 90% of the global high-end chip market. Its market value has already exceeded $1 trillion. I leaned back in the seat, eyes closed, listening quietly. $1 trillion? Not bad. Also, the information you asked me to look into on the Hayes and Miller families has been sent to your new phone. Ace handed me a brand new, clearly custom-made phone. I tapped the screen, and 2 detailed reports appeared. The Miller family, a second-tier family in Midland City, made their fortune in real estate, with assets around $2 billion. The CEO, Arthur Miller, was domineering, with connections in both legitimate and shady circles. The Hayes family, once a first-tier family in Midland City, had been in decline since Grandpa Hayes fell ill and retired. Under Scarlett's leadership, the company faced internal and external challenges, with its capital chain on the verge of breaking. It desperately needed an investment to survive. That was why they were so eager to marry Scarlett off to the Millers. Interesting, I murmured, a cold smirk on my lips. $50 million investment to buy my wife? Brandon, Arthur Miller, your appetites are far too small. I scrolled through the files, my gaze lingering on a photo of Scarlett. In the picture, she retained her cold demeanor, beautiful and ethereal. But at the very bottom of the file, a line of red text caught my eye. Target, Scarlett Hayes. Identity, questionable. Investigation shows contact with mysterious international organization Shadow 3 years ago. Her maternal family is suspected to be connected to the hidden martial arts family of the Pacific Northwest. The Sterling family. The Sterling family? My eyes snapped open, a sharp glint flashing through them. Interesting. I had thought this was just a mundane business marriage. Now it seemed this pond was much deeper than I had imagined. Boss, should I investigate further? Ace, through the rearview mirror, noticed the change in my expression. Investigate. I uttered one word. Dig up everything on the Sterling family and that Shadow organization. I want to know their exact relationship with Scarlett Hayes and what secrets hide behind that marriage 3 years ago. Understood, Ace replied respectfully. Also, I paused, continuing, help me register an investment company. Name it Skeerich Capital. By tomorrow morning, I want to see all project documents for Miller Corp. And identify their biggest commercial rivals. A flicker of excitement appeared in Ace's eyes. Boss, you're getting personally involved? I smiled. Gotta have some fun, right? If the Millers want to play, I'll give them a good game. My fingers lightly tapped the phone screen. A vast plan rapidly formed in my mind. They want to control Hayes Corp. Through investment? Fine. Tomorrow, I'll show Arthur Miller what real capital power means. I'll make him watch as the fat prey he's about to devour is swallowed whole by me, and then I'll smash his own business empire, piece by piece, and feed it to the dogs. Meanwhile, at the Hayes Corporation villa, the atmosphere was incredibly tense. Brenda Hayes was still cursing nonstop. That damn bum. He's lost his mind. How dare he talk to us like that? And he dared to hit Brandon. He's dead. He's absolutely dead. Brandon, clutching his arm, which had been crudely bandaged, had a face as twisted as a demon. The intense pain and boundless humiliation pushed him to the brink of madness. Brenda, don't worry. My dad has already sent people to find him. We'll dig up the whole city to drag that bastard out. I'll chop him into pieces and feed him to the dogs. He turned to Scarlett, who had remained silent, a flash of lust and possessiveness in his eyes. Scarlett, don't worry. Once I deal with that bum, we'll go to the courthouse. Then, with the Miller and Hayes families united, all of Midland City will be ours. Scarlett frowned, subconsciously taking a step back, avoiding his outstretched hand. She hated Brandon's blatant gaze. For some reason, her mind kept replaying Ethan's rigid back as he left yesterday, and those deep, cold eyes. And the two words he signed on the divorce agreement. Dominant, sharp. Was that truly the man who had endured humiliation in her house for 3 years? Why had he changed so much? The ruthlessness and efficiency with which he fought were definitely not what an ordinary person would possess. And that car he got into when he left, was it a Rolls-Royce Phantom? One mystery after another, like vines entangled in Scarlett's heart. Scarlett, what are you thinking about? Brandon asked, annoyed by her distraction. Nothing, Scarlett replied, her tone still cool. Mr. Miller, your injury is serious. You should go to the hospital first. What's a minor injury like this? Brandon insisted, trying to save face. Once I catch that bum. His phone rang before he could finish. It was his father, Arthur Miller. Brandon immediately switched to a fawning tone. Hello, Dad. Did your men catch that bum? Make sure to break all his limbs. No, all 5 of them. On the other end of the line, Arthur Miller's voice was filled with furious exhaustion. You insolent fool. Who exactly did you provoke out there? Brandon was stunned. Dad, what are you talking about? It's just a worthless son-in-law named Ethan. Worthless bum. Arthur Miller's voice suddenly rose like a provoked lion. All 30 of my men are in the damn hospital. They didn't even touch a hair on his head. Do you know who was leading them? It was Black Tiger. Even he had his arm broken with one move. What? Brandon was struck by lightning, completely dumbfounded. Black Tiger was his father's best enforcer, a formidable character who could take down a dozen strong men alone. He was taken down with one move? How is that possible? How could that worthless Ethan be so powerful? Dad, is there a mistake? That bum, he's just... Shut up, Arthur Miller roared. I don't care how you do it. Go find out everything about that Ethan immediately. He is absolutely not some worthless bum. You incompetent idiot. You almost brought disaster upon the Miller family. The call ended abruptly. Brandon stood rooted to the spot, phone in hand, his face bloodless, cold sweat pouring down. He finally felt fear, a bone-deep fear of an unknown power. Brenda had also heard the conversation, and her face turned pale with fright. She dared not curse anymore. In Scarlett's beautiful eyes, that ripple had turned into a raging storm. 30 men, Black Tiger, one move. These words, combined, painted a picture in her mind of an incredibly powerful and mysterious man. That image slowly merged with Ethan's seemingly ordinary face, a face she'd looked at for 3 years. She felt her heart uncontrollably speed up. Ethan, who exactly are you? The night passed without a word. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I had already finished my morning workout in the presidential suite on the top floor of a 5-star hotel. Ace had prepared everything. A brand-new custom-tailored suit, a limited-edition Patek Philippe watch, and a cup of perfectly brewed coffee. I dressed immaculately, standing before the massive windows, overlooking the freshly awakened city below. Midland City. From today, I run this town. Boss, the files you requested. Ace handed me a tablet. I took it, quickly scanning the contents. It contained all of Miller Corp. This business information, including ongoing projects, financial status, partners, and even some records of Arthur Miller and his son's illicit dealings. Ace's intelligence work never disappointed. My gaze settled on a project called West Side Redevelopment. This was Miller Corp.'s largest current project and also the most strained link in their capital chain. To secure this project, Arthur Miller had mortgaged almost all the corporation's real estate, borrowing $1 billion from a bank. If anything went wrong with this project, the entire Miller Corp would instantly collapse. Miller Corp's biggest competitor in this project was a company called Walker Construction. "Where is the owner of Walker Construction now?" I asked. "Boss, the CEO of Walker Construction is David Walker. An hour ago, his company's accounts were frozen by the bank, and all partners unilaterally terminated their contracts. At this moment, he's in his office, preparing to jump off the building," Ace reported calmly. I raised an eyebrow. "Arthur Miller's doing?" "Yes." Arthur Miller used some of his underworld connections to set up a trap for David Walker, making him sign a fraudulent contract that left him with massive illegal debts. "Ruthless enough?" I smiled. "But I like it." I picked up my coffee and took a sip. "Have the Skerridge Capital team ready. In an hour, I want Miller Corp.'s stock to be worthless." "Understood. Also, go to Walker Construction yourself and bring David Walker to me." "Understood." Ace left to carry out my orders. I looked at Arthur Miller's proud photo on the tablet, the smile on my lips growing colder. "Arthur Miller, do you think you've won? You'll soon find out what it means to be the praying mantis, unaware of the aureole behind it." Hayes Corporation, CEO's office. Scarlett hadn't slept a wink. Before her lay a stack of financial reports. Every number was like a sharp knife, making it hard for her to breathe. The company's funding gap had expanded to $80 million. If new funds weren't injected within 3 days, the company would be forced to declare bankruptcy. The only hope was that $50 million investment from Miller Corp. But the thought of Brandon Miller's repulsive face and Ethan's cold eyes last night made her mind a tangled mess. Knock, knock, knock. The office door opened. "Come in." Her secretary, a young woman named Sarah, rushed in, looking flustered. "Ms. Hayes, it's bad. Something huge has happened." Scarlett's heart sank. "Slow down, what happened?" "Me, Miller Corp. Just 10 minutes ago, Miller Corp. was maliciously targeted by unknown capital. Their stock plummeted at market open. It's still free falling." "What?" Scarlett shot up from her chair, her face filled with shock. "Miller Corp., one of Midland City's top corporations. How could it suddenly be attacked? And so swiftly, without any ability to fight back?" She immediately opened her computer to check the stock market. Miller Corp's stock chart looked like a green waterfall plummeting straight down, a horrifying sight. Below it were countless wails from shareholders and panic selling. "It's over," Scarlett's mind buzzed. Miller Corp. was finished. That meant her $50 million investment was completely gone. Hayes Corp. was doomed. A wave of overwhelming despair instantly enveloped her. She collapsed back in her chair, her face ashen. "Ms. Hayes, are you all right?" Sarah looked at her worriedly. Scarlett waved her hand, utterly distraught. Was fate trying to destroy her Hayes family? Just then, Sarah's phone rang. She answered, and her expression became incredibly strange and shocked. "Ms. Hayes," she stammered just now, "our company's accounts suddenly received a large sum of money." "What money?" "Miller's breach of contract fee," Scarlett asked weakly. No. Sarah's voice trembled. "It's $100 million. A full $100 million cash." "What did you say?" Scarlett shot up from her chair, as if electrocuted, snatching the phone from her secretary's hand, staring at the bank transfer notification. "Your account ending in 6888 received a transfer of $100 million on September 26th at 10:30 a.m. Memo, Skerridge Capital. $100 million. Skerridge Capital? What company was that? She had never heard of it. Why would they suddenly transfer $100 million to her? Was it a prank? Or Scarlett felt her brain couldn't process it. Happiness had come too suddenly for her to accept it at once. Ding-ling. Her office landline rang. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down, and answer the phone. "Hello, this is Scarlett Hayes." On the other end, a calm, magnetic male voice spoke. "Ms. Hayes, hello. I am the representative for Skirich Capital. Have you received the $100 million investment? Yes. Yes, I have. Scarlett's voice was a bit dry. May I ask, who is this? Who I am isn't important, the other party said calmly. What's important is that from now on, I am the majority shareholder of Hayes Corp. I have only one demand. Terminate all cooperation with Miller Corp. Immediately, and hold a press conference at once to announce that Hayes Corp. will enter into a deep strategic partnership with Walker Construction for the West Side redevelopment project. Walker Construction? Scarlett was stunned. Wasn't that Miller Corp's arch-rival? And she'd heard that Walker Construction was on the verge of bankruptcy this morning. What was Skirich Capital trying to do? Openly declare war on Miller Corp. Before she could think it through, the other party dropped another bombshell. Also, at 3 p.m., I will send my assistant to liaison with you. His name is Ethan Grant. Clatter. The phone slipped from Scarlett's hand, falling to the floor. Ethan Grant. Ethan? Was it the Ethan she knew? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Scarlett's mind was in a whirl. How could that worthless bum, who had cooked and cleaned in her house for 3 years, who barely dared to look her in the eye, possibly be the assistant of this mysterious Skirich Capital that could throw around $100 million? It had to be someone with the same name. Yes, that had to be it. Scarlett desperately tried to convince herself. But for some reason, Ethan's cold and unfamiliar eyes from yesterday kept flashing in her mind. She felt her heart pounding furiously, a sense of unprecedented panic gripping her. Ms. Hayes? Ms. Hayes, are you still there? Sarah's voice on the other end of the line pulled her back to reality. I am. Scarlett picked up the receiver, her voice trembling slightly. I understand. I'll do as he says. She hung up, sitting disoriented in her chair, her gaze vacant. Regardless of whether that Ethan was the Ethan she knew, the situation was clear now. Hayes Corp. was saved, but the cost was to completely stand against Miller Corp. And she herself seemed to be caught in a financial storm she didn't understand. At the center of the storm was a mysterious entity called Skirich Capital and a man named Ethan Grant. 3 p.m., precisely on time. The knock came at the CEO's office door. Come in. Scarlett took a deep breath and looked up. When she saw the person standing at the door, her pupils constricted sharply, and her breath hitched for half a second. It was really him, Ethan Grant. But the Ethan before her was a completely different man from the worthless bum in her memories. A well-tailored black Armani suit perfectly accentuated his tall, lean physique. The seemingly understated watch on his wrist, Scarlett recognized it instantly as a limited edition Patek Philippe, worth at least 7 figures. His hair was impeccably styled, revealing a clean forehead. The face she had once considered unremarkable now had sharp angles, exuding an indescribable confidence and command. Especially his eyes. Deep, calm, yet seeming to penetrate everything. He simply stood there, and the powerful aura emanating from him made even her, the ice-cold CEO used to high-stakes situations, feel a touch of pressure. Ms. Hayes, we meet again. I walked into the office, a faint smile playing on my lips, my gaze sweeping over her stunned, pretty face. From today, I represent Skirich Capital as the executive director of Hayes Corp. I hope we can have a pleasant collaboration. I walked over to the chair opposite her desk and sat down, crossing my legs, my posture relaxed, as if I were the true owner of this place. Scarlett finally recovered from her shock. She stared at me, her chest heaving, clearly agitated. Ethan, what is going on? Skirich Capital. You. She asked several questions at once, but didn't know where to start. It's simple. I interrupted her. What you see is the truth. The old Ethan is dead. The current me is your boss. Boss. The word struck Scarlett's heart like a heavy hammer. She was such a proud woman, the renowned ice queen of Midland City's business world. Now, she was being looked down upon by her once despised ex-husband, who called himself her boss. The immense disparity and sense of humiliation made her cheeks flush. What exactly do you want? She asked coldly, gritting her teeth. What I want, you'll soon find out. I picked up the West Side redevelopment project files from her desk and flipped through them. How are the preparations for the press conference going? All major media outlets have been notified. It starts at 4 sharp, Scarlett replied, suppressing her emotions and adopting a professional tone. Good, I nodded. Also, call the head of company security for me. Why do you need him? Scarlett asked warily. Layoffs, I said calmly. A bunch of worthless people who just collect paychecks. What's the point of keeping them? The security department at Hayes Corp, much like the Hayes family itself, was corrupt to the core. Most were Brenda's relatives, strutting around like they owned the place, but the first to run when trouble actually hit. Scarlett sputtered. They're all long-time employees. Ms. Hayes. I raised my eyes, my gaze suddenly sharp. Please understand who is in charge now. If you can't handle the CEO position, I don't mind finding someone else. My voice wasn't loud, but it was like an ice pick, making Scarlett shiver. She looked at my eyes, devoid of any emotion, and for the first time, felt fear. This man before her was too unfamiliar, too terrifying. His absolute dominance, his power over life and death, left her no room to even think of resisting. In the end, she yielded. She picked up the phone, her voice betraying a hint of trembling. Have head of security, Frank, come to my office. Soon, a greasy-faced, beer-bellied, middle-aged man swaggered in. It was Frank Hayes, Brenda's brother. Sis. Oh, I mean Ms. Hayes, you call. Frank started to sit on the couch as soon as he entered. Stand, I said coldly. Frank then noticed me. He froze, then erupted in anger, pointing a finger at my nose. Who the hell are you? A worthless bum who got kicked out of the Hayes family, daring to cause trouble here? We'll let you in. Where are the guards? Dead. I said nothing, merely watched him, as if watching a dead man. Scarlett's face paled, and she quickly said, Frank, this is Director Ethan, sent by Skeeridge Capital. What director? Frank completely ignored her, arrogantly cutting her off. I'm telling you, as long as my brother-in-law. Oh, I mean as long as Brandon Miller is here. No outsider's going to tell the Hayes family what to do. Ethan, I'm counting to 3. Get out right now, or I'll break your damn legs. 1, 2. He was still counting, full of bravado. I stood up, slowly walking toward him. He was half a head shorter than me, but still puffed out his belly, looking at me down his nose. What? Scared? Kneel down and beg me right now, and I might just... His words abruptly stopped, because my hand had already wrapped around his neck. With one hand, I had lifted his 200-pound body clean off the ground. Ugh, ugh. Frank Hayes's feet flailed in the air, his face instantly turning purple. His hands desperately tried to pry my fingers away, but he found them like steel rebar, unyielding. The terror of suffocation instantly enveloped him. His eyes bulged, and gurgling sounds escaped his throat. His gaze at me was filled with terror and pleading. In the office, Scarlett and her secretary Sarah were completely stunned. They covered their mouths, staring in horror at the violent and terrifying scene unfolding. Was this still the meek and subservient Ethan? This was clearly a demon risen from hell. Now, do you know who's in charge? I squeezed his throat, lifted him towards Scarlett's desk, and then slammed him down. Thud. Frank Hayes's heavy body crashed onto the hard mahogany desk with a loud bang, scattering files, the computer, and coffee cups everywhere. He lay on the desk like a dead dog, gasping for breath, snot and tears streaming down his face. In that instant, he truly thought he was going to die. You're fired. I pulled a tissue from the desk and wiped my hand, as if I'd touched something incredibly filthy. Take your worthless security team and disappear from my sight in 3 minutes. Otherwise, I don't mind throwing you all from the 30th floor. My voice was calm, but carried an undeniable, icy chill. Frank Hayes shuddered, scrambling down from the desk, not daring to utter a single word, and stumbled out of the office. The entire office fell silent once more. Sarah was pale with fright, hiding behind Scarlett, trembling. Scarlett was equally shaken. She looked at me, her eyes filled with an extremely complex mix of fear, unfamiliarity, anger, and a hint of an emotion she couldn't quite place. This man was too dominant, so dominant that it made her feel stifled, yet also gave her a strange sense of security. This absurd thought emerged, only to be immediately extinguished. Ethan, you've gone too far. This is a company, not a place for you to just use violence, she said, gathering her courage to snap at me. I turned around, stepping closer to her, one step at a time. She instinctively retreated until her back hit the cold wall, with nowhere left to go. I reached out, bracing my hand on the wall beside her ear, enveloping her entirely in my shadow. The distance between us was less than 4 inches. I could even smell the faint, cool, lotus-like scent of her body. Her heart instantly skipped a beat. A flush spread across her cheeks. "Ms. Hayes." I leaned in, speaking softly into her ear, in a voice only we two could hear. "I'm teaching you. Against wolves, you don't use the same methods as against sheep. You have to be fiercer, more brutal, then they will fear you." My warm breath tickled her ear, making her sensitive earlobe instantly turn crimson, and her body trembled slightly. You get away from me." She turned her head, unable to meet my eyes. I smiled, straightened up, and took a step back, reverting to my calm, nonchalant demeanor. "Get ready. We're going to the press conference. A good show is about to begin." With that, I didn't look at her again, turning and walking out of the office, leaving Scarlett alone, leaning against the wall, her mind in a chaotic mess. At 4 p.m., the Hayes Corporation press conference began promptly. The hall was packed with reporters from Midland City's major media outlets. Cameras clicked, flashbulbs flared. Everyone was curious. At this critical juncture, with Miller Corp. imploding and Hayes Corp. on the brink of bankruptcy, what would Scarlett Hayes announce at this sudden press conference? Would it be bankruptcy and liquidation? Or was there another story? Scarlett sat at the center of the podium, her face cool, but her tightly clenched hands betrayed her inner tension. I didn't go on stage. Instead, I sat in the front row of guest seating with Ace and a refined-looking middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses. This man was David Walker, the CEO of Walker Construction. An hour ago, he was preparing to jump off the roof of his own company. Now, he sat beside me, his back straight, his face filled with the excitement of a man who had escaped death and immense gratitude toward me. Just moments ago, Skeeridge Capital not only paid off all his debts, but also injected an additional $500 million, making him the strongest contender for the West Side redevelopment project. He knew clearly that all of this was thanks to the seemingly young, yet unfathomable man beside him. Distinguished media friends, thank you for taking the time to attend the Hayes Corporation's press conference. Scarlett, having composed herself, began her address from the stage. Today, I will announce 2 important matters here. First, effective immediately, Hayes Corporation will terminate all cooperation intentions with Miller Corp. As soon as her words fell, the entire hall erupted in an uproar. What? Terminate cooperation with Miller Corp? Is Ms. Hayes crazy? Miller Corp is her only lifeline right now, right? Even though Miller Corp's stock has crashed, a lean camel is still bigger than a horse. Hayes Corp can't afford to offend them. Reporters buzzed with discussion, and flashbulbs fired even more brightly. Just then, the main doors of the hall were kicked open. "Scarlett Hayes, you bitch, you dared to play me." Brandon Miller, accompanied by his father, Arthur Miller, whose arm I had just broken, stormed in, full of furious arrogance. Arthur Miller's face was so dark it looked like it would drip water. Behind him were a dozen black-suited bodyguards, exuding a menacing aura. "It's Mr. Miller, Arthur Miller of Miller Corp. Oh my God, this is going to be good." The reporters instantly grew excited, all cameras turning toward Arthur Miller and his son at the entrance. Arthur Miller ignored the reporters. He walked directly to the podium, slammed his hand on the table, and pointed a finger at Scarlett's nose, roaring, "Scarlett Hayes, what did my Miller family ever wrong you? How dare you kick us when we're down at a time like this? Do you believe I can make your Hayes Corporation disappear from Midland City by tomorrow?" Faced with Arthur Miller's towering rage, Scarlett's face paled, unable to speak. Meanwhile, I slowly stood up. I patted David Walker's shoulder and smiled at him. "Mr. Walker, it's your turn." Then, meeting everyone's gaze, I walked step by step toward the podium. "Arthur Miller, quite the display of power you're making." My voice wasn't loud, but it clearly carried to every corner of the hall. Everyone's attention instantly focused on me. Arthur Miller also turned his head. When he saw my face, he first froze, then erupted in fury. "Who the hell are you? Do you have any business speaking here?" Brandon, beside him, screamed like he'd seen a ghost the moment he saw me. He stumbled back 3 steps, pointing at me. "Dad, it's him. This worthless bum broke my hand." "It was you." Arthur Miller's eyes instantly turned chillingly cold, like 2 sharp swords, locking onto me. A formidable pressure, stemming from his long-held position of power, washed over me. Any ordinary person would have been intimidated, their legs turning to jelly. But I was Ethan Grant. I was once the Wraith, a name that struck terror into the entire underworld. This slight pressure felt like a gentle breeze to me. I ignored his murderous gaze and walked directly to Scarlett's side. I took the microphone from her hand, my movements so natural it was as if we had rehearsed countless times. Scarlett stared at me, dumbfounded, momentarily forgetting to react. I addressed the microphone, scanning the entire hall, a playful smirk on my lips. "Allow me to introduce myself. Ethan Grant, Executive Director of Skerridge Capital." One sentence. It was like a depth charge thrown into a calm lake. The entire hall fell silent instantly. All the reporters' eyes widened, their faces filled with disbelief. Ethan Grant? Was it that the name of the Hayes family's notorious worthless son-in-law? How could he be the executive director of Skerridge Capital? Skerridge Capital, the mysterious giant that had emerged this morning, swiftly and powerfully, crushing Miller Corp. In just an hour. How is this possible? Arthur Miller's pupils also constricted to pinpricks. He stared at me, the muscles in his face twitching violently from extreme shock. What did you say? Say it again. I said. I enunciated each word, my voice not loud, but striking everyone's heart like a heavy hammer. I, Ethan Grant, am the executive director of Skerridge Capital, and the majority shareholder of Hayes Corp. I paused, my gaze shifting to Brandon, who was already terrified beside him, my smile turning icy. "And that worthless bum, as you called me, who was kicked out of the house." Boom! Brandon's mind completely exploded. Worthless son-in-law, Skerridge Capital Director. These 2 vastly different identities clashed wildly in his mind, making his entire worldview crumble. He pointed at me, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. "No, impossible. This is absolutely impossible." Arthur Miller, after all, was a man who had weathered many storms. He was the first to recover from the shock. Though his heart was also churning, he forced a calm expression. "Playing games," he snorted. "What is this Skerridge Capital? I've never heard of it. Kid, I don't care who you are. You hit my son, and now you're spreading nonsense. Today, you won't leave here on your feet." He waved his hand. "Men, take him down." The dozen black-suited bodyguards behind him immediately rushed toward the podium like wolves. The reporters scattered in fear, and the hall descended into chaos. Scarlett's face also turned pale with fright, and she instinctively grabbed my arm. I could feel her hand trembling slightly. I turned my hand, gently clasping her cold fingers, and gave her a reassuring look. Then I looked at the charging bodyguards, my eyes completely unperturbed. "Ace," I called out softly. "Here." A black shadow, like a phantom, instantly appeared before me. It was Ace. He didn't even turn to look at me, merely faced the dozen charging bodyguards and coldly uttered one word. "Out." His voice wasn't loud, but it seemed to carry a magical force. The dozen aggressive bodyguards, when they were still 10 feet from Ace, seemed to hit an invisible wall. Their faces contorted, their steps faltered, and some even vomited blood, flying backward and collapsing. Just a single roar, and a dozen elite bodyguards were sent sprawling. What terrifying power was this? The entire hall fell into a deathly silence again. Everyone was completely stunned by this utterly abnormal scene. Arthur Miller's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He looked at Ace, standing like an iron tower before me, and for the first time, his voice carried a hint of a tremor. Who exactly are you people?" I didn't answer him. Instead, I turned my gaze to David Walker in the front row. David Walker understood my cue and immediately stood up, walking to the podium. He took another microphone handed to him by Scarlett's secretary, cleared his throat, and declared loudly, "Ladies and gentlemen, I, David Walker of Walker Construction, hereby formally announce my company has received a $500 million strategic investment from Skerridge Capital. And We will enter into a comprehensive partnership with Hayes Corporation for the West Side Redevelopment Project. Another bombshell. If the earlier attack on Miller Corp had merely shocked people with Skirich Capital's financial power, then David Walker's announcement now completely revealed Skirich Capital's ambition. This was to devour Miller Corp and take its place. Arthur Miller heard these words and could no longer stand. His body swayed, and he nearly collapsed onto his backside. He understood. Everything clicked into place. From the very beginning, this was a setup, a trap, an inescapable net, specifically targeting his Miller Corp. And the mastermind behind it was this man, whom he and his son had always regarded as a worthless bum. A mouthful of blood spurted from Arthur Miller's mouth. He pointed at me, his eyes filled with endless venom and regret. "You, what ruthless methods?" I smiled. "Ruthless? I think this is just the beginning." I took the microphone and, facing all the media, announced the second matter. I announced that Skirich Capital will officially launch a full acquisition of Miller Corp. I offer your Miller family two paths. My gaze fell on Arthur Miller's swaying face, my voice cold, devoid of emotion. First, take your money, get out of Midland City, and never return. Second, I will ensure your Miller family is completely erased from Midland City. I give you 1 day to consider. With that, I dropped the microphone, no longer looking at the two men whose faces were already ashen. I took Scarlett, who was already dumbfounded, by the hand. Protected by Ace, amidst the frantic flashbulbs and questions from the reporters, I walked straight out of the hall. Left behind was a shattered mess, and a legend of a worthless son-in-law defying all odds and turning the tables, a legend that would shake all of Midland City. Back in the Hayes Corporation CEO's office, the atmosphere was still heavy. Scarlett pulled her hand from mine and silently walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the bustling street below, her back appearing somewhat lonely. I could sense that her heart was undergoing a fierce tsunami. Everything that had happened today was too much for her. Her former husband, a worthless bum she had despised for 3 years, had transformed into the powerful figure controlling her and her company's destiny. This kind of overwhelming reversal was enough to make any proud woman feel utterly lost. I didn't disturb her. It was good for her to be alone for a while. I poured myself a glass of water, sat on the couch, and began to deal with some Wraith Corporation affairs that Ace had sent. In the large office, only our shallow breathing and the city noise from outside could be heard. I don't know how much time passed, but Scarlett finally turned around. She looked at me, her clear eyes for the first time filled with complex emotions. There was curiosity, confusion, resentment, and even a hint of a grievance she herself couldn't quite identify. "Why?" she asked, her voice a little hoarse. "Why what?" I asked, not looking up from my phone. "Why did you hide it from me?" she pressed. "If you had such status and abilities, why did you endure humiliation in our Hayes family for 3 years?" I put down my phone, looked up, and met her gaze. "Ms. Hayes, I think you've misunderstood something," I said calmly. "I wasn't hiding anything from you, nor was I enduring humiliation. 3 years ago, I genuinely had amnesia. The Ethan back then was exactly what you saw. As for the current me," I smiled. "You can think of it as I awakened." Awakened? Scarlett clearly didn't believe that explanation. She thought I was brushing her off. "Yes, awakened." I stood up and walked toward her, looking directly into her eyes. "And I should thank you. If you hadn't thrown those divorce papers in my face yesterday, perhaps I never would have woken up." My words were like a needle, sharply piercing Scarlett. Her face instantly paled a few shades. Yes, it was us. We had personally pushed away the true dragon that belonged to the Hayes family. If yesterday they hadn't been so harsh, hadn't humiliated him so much, would everything today be different? Hayes Corp might have weathered the crisis without a single battle, and even, with his help, soared to new heights. And she wouldn't have to live like this now, subservient to him, with him controlling everything. An overwhelming wave of regret engulfed her. She looked at me, her lips moving, as if to say something, but in the end, nothing came out. Proud as she was, she couldn't utter a single "I'm sorry." I looked at her, her face streaked with tears, my heart unmoved. In my past life, what kind of stunning beauties hadn't I seen? Women who were obsessed with me, crazed for me, lived and died for me, countless of them. Scarlett was beautiful, over 95%, but in my eyes, she was merely beautiful. A woman who had been cold to me for 3 years. I harbored no lingering emotions for her. Between us, now, it was purely a relationship of boss and subordinate. If there's nothing else, Ms. Hayes, you can get back to work. I dismissed her. Regarding the cooperation plan with Walker Construction, I expect to see a perfect proposal on my desk tomorrow morning. Your desk? Scarlett was momentarily stunned. Yes. I pointed to the vacant vice president's office next to hers. From today, that is my office. If you need me, knock. With that, I ignored her, walked straight into that office, and with a thud, closed the door. Scarlett stood alone, looking at the closed door, feeling an unprecedented sense of humiliation and frustration wash over her. Once upon a time, this man was her servant, at her beck and call. Now, their positions had completely reversed. She bit her lip, and for the first time, a misty blur appeared in her beautiful eyes. In the evening, I finished my work and prepared to leave. As I stepped out of my office, I saw Scarlett still sitting at her desk, a pile of documents before her, clearly struggling with that proposal. The setting sun's afterglow streamed through the window, casting a soft golden light on her cool profile. I had to admit, a woman engrossed in work certainly possessed a unique charm. Just then, her phone rang. She answered, and after hearing just one sentence, her face instantly changed. Mom, what did you say? Grandpa, he's in critical condition. Her voice was filled with anxiety and panic. Okay, I'm coming right back. She hung up, grabbed her bag, and rushed out, so desperate that her high heel caught, and she almost fell. I instinctively reached out and caught her slender waist. My hand met an astonishing softness and delicacy. Her body stiffened. She looked up, her usually icy eyes now filled with helplessness and tears. My grandpa, he's dying. Grandpa Hayes. The image of the old man who had brought me back to the Hayes family 3 years ago, the only one who had shown me kindness, surfaced in my mind. Although I had no deep emotional attachment to him, he was, after all, this body's benefactor. Furthermore, the secret about Scarlett and the Sterling family might need to be uncovered through him. I'll take you. Without another word, I guided her toward the elevator. No, I can manage. She instinctively tried to refuse. Shut up, I said coldly, cutting her off. Right now, I'm in charge. Scarlett, startled by my tone, actually dared not speak another word. She simply let me lead her into the elevator. The ride was silent. The Rolls-Royce sped through the streets. Scarlett sat in the passenger's seat, her hands tightly clasped, tears silently streaming down her face. I could feel her sadness and helplessness. This outwardly strong woman had finally shed all her pretenses in the face of the devastating news of her closest relative's impending death. Soon, the car arrived at the Hayes family villa. Before even entering, we could hear Brenda Hayes's shrill wails from inside. Oh, heavens! Why are you so cruel? If Grandpa leaves us, how will our family survive? I helped Scarlett, and we hurried into the living room. The room was filled with Hayes relatives. Brenda was sprawled on the couch, crying hysterically, but a closer look revealed not a single tear in her eyes. Several well-known Midland City doctors were gathered around Grandpa Hayes, who lay on the bed, all sighing and at a loss. Scarlett rushed to the bedside, grasping Grandpa Hayes's withered hand, sobbing uncontrollably. Grandpa, wake up. Please look at Scarlett. Grandpa Hayes's eyes were tightly shut, his face ashen, his breathing so faint it was almost imperceptible. A white-haired old doctor approached Scarlett, shook his head, and sighed. Ms. Hayes, please accept my condolences. Your grandfather. He's at the end of his rope. His heart is failing. It's time to prepare for his passing. These words made Scarlett's body sway, almost causing her to faint. Brenda, hearing this, cried even louder. Oh my God, what are we going to do? In this scene of overwhelming grief, I slowly stepped forward. Everyone move aside. My calm voice made everyone freeze. All eyes turned to me. A Hayes relative recognized me and immediately pointed, cursing, Ethan, what are you doing here, you worthless bum? You're not welcome, get out. Exactly. A stray dog who got kicked out of the house, daring to come back. Bad luck. Brenda also saw me. She immediately jumped off the couch and charged at me like a shrew, tried to scratch me. Ethan, you jinx. Is it you who cursed Grandpa? I'll kill you. I frowned, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. Get out, I barked, and an invisible wave of air, centered on me, erupted. Brenda, who was at the front of the charge, cried out as if hit by a speeding truck. She flew backward, slammed into the wall, and then slid to the floor, unconscious. The entire hall fell silent once more. Everyone was stunned by my display of power. I ignored their terrified gazes and walked directly to the bedside, looking at the dying Grandpa Hayes. I extended 2 fingers and placed them on his pulse. A moment later, I exhaled. Good, there was still time. What do you want to do? Scarlett looked at me, her eyes filled with wariness and confusion. Save him. I uttered 2 simple words. Save him? You. A doctor scoffed, as if he'd heard the most ridiculous joke. Young man, don't grandstand here. So many of us specialists have consulted and are helpless. What do you, a mere boy, know about medicine? Exactly. Stop causing trouble and get out. Another doctor impatiently waved his hand. Scarlett also looked at me with suspicion. Although she had witnessed my fighting prowess in wealth, medicine, that was a completely different field. She'd never heard of Ethan knowing how to treat illness in the 3 years he'd lived with her family. I couldn't be bothered with these quack doctors. Ace, the silver needles. Understood. Ace pulled out an antique wooden box from somewhere and handed it to me. I opened the box. Inside lay a row of gleaming silver needles of varying lengths. What are you doing? The old doctor cried out in alarm. The patient's current condition cannot withstand any further strain. You're endangering a life. He tried to stop me. Ace took a step forward, blocking him like an insurmountable mountain. Sir, please do not disturb our king. I ignored the surrounding commotion, took a deep breath, and my entire demeanor changed abruptly. If I had been a dominant, formidable king moments ago, I was now a compassionate medical saint. I picked up a 3-inch silver needle. My gaze focused and flicked my wrist. Whoosh! The silver needle became a blur, piercing precisely into Grandpa Hayes' donjong acupoint on his chest, leaving only a small section of the needle's tail, trembling slightly. An expert's touch reveals their skill. The doctors were all stunned by my move. This needle was fast, accurate, and steady. It was impossible without decades of practice. I didn't stop. Both hands moved simultaneously, quick as phantoms. One silver needle after another flew from my fingertips, precisely piercing into Grandpa Hayes' various acupoints around his body. Shunting bai wei chi hai guan yuan. In a blink, Grandpa Hayes' body was covered with hundreds of silver needles, each trembling slightly, as if forming a profound array. Fine beads of sweat also appeared on my forehead. This acupuncture technique, called the Ninefold Revival Technique, was created by my Grant family ancestors, possessing the miraculous ability to defy nature and reverse life and death. But performing it required an immense amount of inner energy. With my strength only just recovered, even one application was somewhat strenuous. With my inner energy, I draw upon the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Ninefold revival. Command. I pointed my fingers like a sword at Grandpa Hayes' forehead, transferring the last shred of my inner energy into him. Buzz. The hundreds of silver needles, as if responding to some summon, simultaneously emitted a faint hum. A visible white aura flowed over Grandpa Hayes' body, then slowly converged into him. A miracle occurred. Grandpa Hayes' face, which had been ashen like paper, began to regain a healthy pink hue at a visible speed. His breathing, which had been so weak it was almost imperceptible, gradually became steady and strong. How is this possible? The white-haired old doctor rubbed his eyes, his face filled with disbelief. The other doctors also gathered around the bed, staring at the continuously rising vital sign data on the instruments, their jaws practically on the floor. Heartbeat is back. Blood pressure is normal. My God, this is a miracle, a medical miracle. Their gazes toward me shifted from disdain and scorn to fervent worship and awe. Scarlett also covered her mouth, her beautiful eyes welling with tears. But this time, they were tears of excitement and joy. She looked at me, the emotions in her eyes incredibly complex. How many more secrets did this man hold? What kind of person was he truly? Cough, cough. Just then, Grandpa Hayes on the bed let out a soft cough and slowly opened his eyes. Grandpa! Scarlett could no longer hold back, rushing to the bedside, weeping with joy. Grandpa Hayes looked at his granddaughter, then around the room, his eyes still a bit confused. Where? Where am I? Wasn't I already? Grandpa, you're all right. It was Ethan who saved you. Scarlett choked out. Grandpa Hayes's gaze then fell upon me. When he saw my face clearly, a sharp glint burst forth from his cloudy eyes. He struggled, trying to sit up. Grandpa, don't move. I stepped forward, pressing him down gently. But Grandpa Hayes's next action stunned everyone present. Despite my obstruction, he stubbornly pushed himself up from the bed, and then, under everyone's shocked gaze, he knelt directly before me. Senator Charles Hayes greets, Lord Dragon. His voice was old, but carried an undeniable excitement and fear. Lord Dragon. These two words, like a bolt of lightning from the heavens, exploded in the minds of everyone in the living room, especially Scarlett. Lord Dragon? What kind of title was that? Scarlett was utterly bewildered. She looked at me, standing respectfully before her grandfather, and then at her grandfather, kneeling before me, his expression excited and fearful. She felt her brain had completely crashed. What was going on? Why would Grandpa call Ethan Lord Dragon? And kneel before him? Not just her. All the Hayes relatives in the living room were dumbfounded. They exchanged glances, their eyes filled with confusion and shock. I looked at Charles Hayes, kneeling before me, my eyes narrowing slightly. It seemed he knew some things. Perhaps he had known from the beginning that my identity was not simple. That accidental marriage 3 years ago was probably no accident either. Get up, I said calmly. Thank you, Lord Dragon. Charles Hayes, supported by Scarlett, tremblingly stood up. His gaze toward me was filled with reverence. Lord Dragon, please forgive this sinner's poor judgment. For 3 years, I failed to recognize your true identity and even allowed you to suffer such humiliation in the Hayes family. This sinner deserves 10,000 deaths. As he spoke, he tried to kneel again. Enough, I interrupted him a little impatiently. I don't want to hear such nonsense. I ask you, what exactly happened 3 years ago? Why did you marry Scarlett to me? My question was also what Scarlett most wanted to know. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on her grandfather. Charles Hayes looked at his granddaughter, then at me, and let out a long sigh. Very well, given the circumstances, it's time to tell you the truth. He let Scarlett help him to the couch. His gaze became distant, as if lost in old memories. Scarlett, do you remember your mother? Scarlett nodded, her eyes rimmed with red. I do. She passed away when I was 5. No. Charles Hayes shook his head, revealing a shocking secret. She didn't die. She merely returned to where she belonged, the Pacific Northwest, the Sterling family. What? Scarlett was struck as if by lightning. Your mother, Eleanor, was the young lady of the Sterling family, a hidden martial arts family in the Pacific Northwest. Years ago, she broke with her family to pursue so-called free love, marrying your father. But when you were 5, the Sterling family found her and forcibly took her back. And your father, for resisting, was severely injured by the Sterling family and succumbed to his wounds. Before your father died, he entrusted me to protect you at all costs. And the Sterling family also sent word that when you turned 25, they would come to Midland City to take you back to the family, to be married into another hidden family. Scarlett listened, stunned. She had always believed her mother died of illness and her father died in an accident. She never imagined such a blood-soaked history lay hidden behind it. Then, what does this have to do with Ethan? She asked, her voice trembling. Charles Hayes's gaze returned to me, his expression becoming incredibly complex. 3 years ago, my time was running out. I knew I didn't have much longer and couldn't protect you anymore. And the Sterling family was vast and powerful, with influence no one in all of Midland City could contend with. Just when I was in despair, I accidentally received a piece of news. The Lord of the Dragon's Den, the nation's protective divine hall, codenamed Wraith, had mysteriously disappeared near Midland City after a decisive battle with his enemies. At the same time, I also acquired something. As he spoke, Charles Hayes tremblingly pulled out a broken, blood-stained jade pendant from his clothes. On the pendant was carved a vivid five-clawed golden dragon. The moment I saw that jade pendant, my pupils sharply constricted. This was mine. It was the token of the Lord of the Dragon's Den, the Dragon Lord's seal. In that battle 3 years ago, I detonated a bomb, and the Dragon Lord's seal was shattered and lost. I never expected it to fall into Charles Hayes's hands. I used the aura from the Dragon Lord's seal to find you, who had already lost your memory at the time. Charles Hayes looked at me, a bitter smile on his face. I didn't know what had happened to you, but I knew you were Scarlet's only hope. The Lord of the Dragon's Den, a divine dragon seen only by its head, not its tail, possessed power capable of contending with any hidden family. As long as you became the Hayes family's son-in-law, even if the Sterling family was domineering, they wouldn't dare easily harm Scarlet. So, I took it upon myself to arrange this marriage. Firstly, to use your identity to deter the Sterling family. Secondly, I hope to keep you in the Hayes family this way, awaiting your recovery. I just didn't expect you to have amnesia for 3 years. And this old body of mine almost didn't last until the day you woke up. The truth was revealed. Scarlet, having heard all of this, was already in tears. She looked at me, her eyes filled with guilt, regret, and a hint of an emotion she herself couldn't quite articulate. So, he wasn't worthless. He was her grandfather, who, with his last ounce of life, had found her savior. And she and her family had, for the past 3 years, trampled and humiliated this savior like trash. Finally, they had personally driven him out of their home. How ironic. How ridiculous. I'm so sorry. Scarlet's voice was thick with tears and a sniffle. Ethan, I'm so sorry. We all misunderstood you. I looked at her tear-streaked face, my heart completely unmoved. The truth, to me, wasn't important. What was important was that Charles Hayes' words confirmed my earlier suspicions. Scarlet was indeed connected to a hidden family, and that Sterling family. They dared to kill the father of someone I, Wraith, intended to protect, and they wanted to forcibly take away my ex-wife. Their audacity was immense. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the already silent night, my voice calm, yet carrying an unquestionable power. When is the Sterling family arriving? Charles Hayes paused, then replied, by my calculations, it should be within these few days, perhaps tonight or tomorrow morning. Good, I understand. I nodded and stood up. I'll be staying here tonight. My words once again stunned everyone present. Scarlet's face immediately flushed crimson. Stay here, or would I sleep tonight? Her house didn't have any spare guest rooms. My decision caught everyone in the Hayes family off guard, especially Brenda. She opened her mouth to object, but upon meeting my icy gaze, she swallowed her words. She was truly afraid of me now. This man was unpredictable, ruthless, simply a devil. Charles Hayes, however, was delighted by my presence. He quickly said to Scarlet, Scarlet, hurry. Hurry and tidy up your room, so the Lord Dragon can stay there. Scarlet's face grew even redder. Grandpa, my room. What else? Do you want the Lord Dragon to sleep on the couch? Charles Hayes glared. Scarlet dared not argue further. She just lowered her head, like a meek daughter-in-law, softly said, oh, and then fled upstairs. Watching her flustered retreat, the corners of my mouth curved upwards. Interesting. The Ice Queen who once ignored me now knows how to blush. I didn't go upstairs immediately. Instead, I said to Charles Hayes, Grandpa, your body is stable for now, but the depletion is too great. You need further conditioning. I'll write you a prescription. Take it regularly, and within half a month, it will ensure you live another 20 years. Thank you, Lord Dragon. Charles Hayes was so excited that old tears streamed down his face. I quickly scribbled a prescription and handed it to Ace. Go, get these medicines. And while you're at it, clear out all the annoying insects around the Hayes villa. Understood. Ace left to carry out the order. Only then did I walk upstairs to the second floor. I pushed open the door to a room I once knew so well, yet had never truly entered. A faint, elegant orchid scent wafted through. The entire room was decorated in cool, minimalist tones, black, white, and gray, just like its owner, serene and proud. Scarlet was making the bed. She had changed out of her business suit and into a pink bunny pajama set, looking less like a sharp CEO and more like a relaxed and cute woman at home. Seeing me enter, her movements froze, her cheeks flushed, a little flustered. I made your bed for you, she said, looking down, not daring to meet my eyes. I glanced around and nodded. HM, not bad. Then, I casually walked to the bed and lay down. The soft mattress, carrying the faint scent of her body, was very comfortable. Scarlett saw my action, both embarrassed and annoyed. You get up. This is my bed. Your bed, isn't it my bed? I said lazily, eyes closed. We are, after all, married. We already. I opened my eyes and glanced at her. She immediately swallowed the words, got divorced, biting her lip, looking at me with a wronged expression. Then you sleep further inside. She mumbled softly, her face as red as a ripe apple. I smiled, moving further in. Only then did she cautiously sit on the other side of the bed, a good distance from me. The room fell silent again. The atmosphere was a little ambiguous and a little awkward. Ethan, she finally spoke first. Thank you for saving my grandpa. Her voice was very soft, like a mosquito's hum. Don't thank me, I said calmly. I saved him because he still has a purpose. My words were direct and hurtful. Scarlett's body visibly stiffened. She was silent for a moment, then asked, why did you help Hayes Corp? Is it also because it's useful? Why else? I countered. You didn't actually think I did it for you, did you? Scarlett's face paled further. Her hands, resting on the duvet, clenched into fists. Yes, why would she think he did it for her? She had been cold to him for 3 years, humiliated him for 3 years. His not retaliating against her now was already merciful. What right did she have to hope for his affection? A great bitterness and sense of injustice welled up in her, and her eyes reddened again. I looked at her on the verge of tears, but felt no pity. Some debts always had to be repaid. Just then, outside the villa, a sudden commotion erupted, mixed with a few screams. I raised an eyebrow. They're here. So fast. Scarlett also heard the noise. She nervously stood up. Outside. What's happening outside? Nothing, I said, still lying down, my expression unchanged. Just a few foolish bugs. No sooner had I spoken than the villa's front door was kicked open from outside. Hayes family, everyone get out here. A supremely arrogant, chilling voice came from downstairs, immediately followed by the screams of Hayes' relatives and Brenda's wailing. Who are you? How dare you break into our Hayes family? Don't hit me. Don't hit me. Scarlett's face changed drastically. It's the Sterling family. She instinctively looked at me, her eyes filled with fear and dependence. I slowly sat up from the bed, stretched, my joints cracking. Let's go, my dear wife. I stood up, walked to her, and reached out to gently pinch her soft cheek. Let's go downstairs and see what surprises your relatives have prepared for you. I took Scarlett's hand, and we slowly walked down the stairs. The living room was already a mess. All the Hayes relatives, including Charles Hayes and Brenda, were being held by a group of men in black combat suits, exuding a chilling aura. Ace stood nearby, a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, clearly having just fought a fierce battle. At his feet lay several men, also in black combat suits, their condition unknown. In the center of the living room stood an old man in a traditional Tang suit, holding a dragon-headed cane, with a hooked nose and sinister eyes. He must be the leader of the Sterling family's contingent this time. Grand uncle, Scarlett cried out when she saw the old man. The old man heard her, slowly turned his head, his gaze falling on Scarlett, and then on my hand, which was holding hers. His eyes instantly narrowed, and a dangerous cold light flashed. Scarlett, you're becoming more and more undisciplined. His voice was hoarse, like a snake hissing. You don't greet your elders, and you're openly holding hands with a commoner, a lowly mortal. You've shamed our Sterling family. Take your filthy hands off her. He slammed his cane on the ground, and a powerful surge of energy shot towards me. I snorted coldly, not dodging. I simply waved my hand. That surge of energy dissipated into nothingness. The Sterling family's granduncle's face showed surprise for the first time. He stared intently at me. Boy, are you a martial artist too? Martial artist? I laughed, a very dismissive laugh. Such low-level individuals aren't even worthy of being compared to me. Arrogant. The Sterling family granduncle flew into a rage. A mere mortal from a secular world, who by chance learned a bit of shoddy martial arts, dares to challenge me. Patriarch Sterling? Take him down. Behind him, two more black-clad men, whose aura was stronger than the others, lunged at me. Power refinement initial stage? The Sterling family only sent riffraff like you. I shook my head, my face filled with disappointment. The moment the two men were about to reach me, I moved. I didn't even release Scarlett's hand. I merely, casually raised my foot. Then I kicked. The movements seemed slow, but were too fast for anyone to see clearly. Thud, thud, two muffled thuds. The two power refinement experts, who were formidable enough to dominate in the secular world, didn't even touch my clothes. Their chests caved in, blood spewed from their mouths, and they flew backward like broken kites, crashing into the wall, no longer moving. Instant kill. Another instant kill. This time, not only the Sterling family members, but even Scarlett was once again utterly shocked by my power. She stared at me, dumbfounded, feeling that every time I struck, I redefined her understanding of the word powerful. Patriarch Sterling's face finally changed. He looked at me, his eyes filled with gravity and apprehension. You? Who exactly are you? Who I am, you're not worthy of knowing. I pulled Scarlett, walking step by step toward him, looking down at him. I'll ask you one thing. Did you hurt him? I pointed to Ace, who had a trace of blood on his lips. Patriarch Sterling's pupils constricted. He forced a proud sniff. So what if I did? A rude servant dared to block the Sterling family's path. I was being merciful by not killing him. Very good. I nodded. The next second, my figure vanished from where I stood. Patriarch Sterling was horrified. He'd barely had time to react. A hand, like a phantom, had already clamped around his neck. Crack! I gave him no chance to speak, twisting my wrist, snapping his neck instantly. The horror and disbelief on his face were forever frozen. A master martial artist at the peak of power refinement, the Sterling family's granduncle was casually crushed by me like a chicken. I released my hand, letting his body fall softly to the ground. Then I pulled out a tissue and wiped my hand as if I had touched something extremely filthy. The entire living room was deathly silent. All the Sterling family members were terrified. They looked at Patriarch Sterling's corpse, then at me, their eyes filled with endless fear. That was the granduncle. His status in the Sterling family was second only to the patriarch. He was just killed like that. Scarlett also turned pale with fright. She gripped my arm tightly, her body trembling uncontrollably. He killed. Ethan, right in front of her, killed. And he killed her granduncle. Although she had no deep feelings for the Sterling family, blood was thicker than water. I could feel her fear. I turned my head and looked at her. Scared, she looked at my still indifferent eyes, bit her lip, and as if possessed, shook her head. No. I smiled. Very good. At least she didn't disappoint me. I turned around, my gaze sweeping over the Sterling family members, who were already scared out of their wits. My voice was like it came from the depths of hell. Go back and tell the Sterling family patriarch. Scarlett Hayes is my woman, Ethan Grant's. Within 3 days, have him personally come to Midland City and kneel before me to beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, after 3 days, I will personally go to the Pacific Northwest and level the Sterling family. Get out. At my command, the Sterling family members, as if granted a great pardon, scrambled to carry their fallen comrades and Patriarch Sterling's corpse, stumbling out of the Hayes villa in a panic. A crisis that could have overturned Midland City was thus completely crushed by me in the most dominant and ruthless way. The Sterling family fled in disarray. The living room was left in chaos, with a group of shaken Hayes family members. Charles Hayes looked at me, his eyes filled not only with reverence but also with fervent admiration. The might of the Lord Dragon was terrifying. Brenda, on the other hand, had already fainted and was unconscious. Scarlett still clung tightly to my arm, as if she were holding on her only anchor in the world. She looked at me, her beautiful eyes shimmering, her emotions stirring. This man had shielded her from the storm, had conquered the world for her. What more could make a woman's heart flutter than this? I ignored everyone's reactions and turned to Ace. Are you all right? Ace wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, grinning to reveal a mouthful of white teeth. Boss, I'm fine. Just a sneak attack from an old man, a minor scratch. He paused, his eyes glowing with excitement. Boss, that move you just pulled off was amazing. The Wraith's power is as formidable as ever. I smiled and patted his shoulder. All right, stop flattering me. Go clean up, make it neat. Understood. Ace took the order and began to clear the scene. I, in turn, pulled Scarlet and returned to the room on the second floor. Closing the door, we were isolated from everything downstairs. In the room, there were just the two of us. Scarlet finally let go of my hand. She lowered her head, her cheeks flushed, her heart pounding like a drum. Ethan, just as she was about to say something, I suddenly reached out, pulled her into my arms, and then spun around, pinning her against the wall behind her. MMPH. Scarlet let out a small gasp. Her back pressed against the cold wall, while my scorching chest was against hers. She was firmly trapped in my embrace, unable to move. I leaned in, looking at her flawless face, so close to mine, at her eyelashes trembling slightly from nervousness, and her luscious red lips. Ms. Hayes, the game needs to enter its next phase. My voice was husky and magnetic. She was too nervous to speak, only able to look at me with her wide, watery eyes, utterly helpless. How do you plan to repay what you owe me? I reached out a finger, gently tracing her soft cheek. Her body shivered. I'll give you the company, she stammered. The company? I laughed. Do you really think I lack such things? Then what do you want? What I want. I lower my head, my lips slowly approaching hers. Just as they were about to touch that softness, I paused. I looked at her face, which was already blushing so hard it looked like it would drip, and her tightly closed eyes, waiting for something. The curve of my lips grew more playful. What I want is you. I want you to willingly become my woman. Completely and utterly, body and soul, mine alone. With that, I didn't press further. I released her, stepping back a pace, enjoying her dazed expression, tinged with a hint of embarrassment and resentment. Get some rest, my dear wife. Tomorrow, there's an even more exciting show waiting for us. I turned and walked toward the bathroom. Scarlet leaned against the wall, gasping for air, feeling her heart might burst from her throat. She touched her burning cheeks, her mind filled with that dominant yet ambiguous scene, and my final words. I want you to willingly become my woman. Her heart was completely in turmoil. The next day, all of Midland City was in an uproar over two events. First, Miller Corp., under Skeeridge Capital's relentless pressure, declared bankruptcy overnight. Arthur Miller, unable to bear the blow, leaped from the company's rooftop, dying instantly. His son, Brandon Miller, was arrested by the police for massive debts and multiple criminal charges. He would spend the rest of his life in prison. The Miller family, once a top-tier, second-tier family in Midland City, was completely wiped out. Second, Hayes Corp. came back from the dead. Not only did it receive a massive investment from the mysterious Skeeridge Capital, but it also partnered with Walker Construction to secure the billion-dollar West Side redevelopment project, instantly becoming the hottest new contender in Midland City's business world. And the mastermind behind all of this, the mysterious executive director of Skeeridge Capital, Ethan Grant, became the most talked about and revered name in Midland City's high society. The former worthless son-in-law, now a business emperor. His comeback became an unreplicable legend. And at this moment, this legend was casually seated at the dining table in the Hayes Villa, enjoying breakfast personally prepared by his wife, at least in name. Scarlet, wearing an apron, carefully placed a plate of perfectly fried golden eggs in front of me, a faint, unnatural blush on her face. Try it, see if you like it. I picked up a fork and took a bite. The taste was pretty good. Your cooking has improved, I commented calmly. Hearing this, a happy smile involuntarily appeared on her lips. Just then, a roar of car engines came from outside the villa. A line of black cars stopped at the Hayes residence. The car doors opened, and a refined-looking middle-aged man in a traditional Chinese tunic suit, with an imposing demeanor, stepped out, surrounded by a group of people. He walked to the villa entrance, but did not enter. Instead, He bowed deeply toward the villa. Patriarch Sterling of the Pacific Northwest Sterling family, with my son Patrick Sterling, has come to Midland City to beg forgiveness from the Lord Dragon. His voice was clear and respectful, echoing throughout the villa. At the dining table, Scarlett's hand trembled, and her chopsticks clattered to the floor. I, in turn, put down my knife and fork, wiped my mouth, and stood up. I walked to the door, looking at the man who had once terrified her beyond words, a calm smirk playing on my lips. Come in. The show finally has begun. I, Ethan Grant, am back. This world will once again bow at my feet.